Yes, we are live once again here with the Reaching Connect podcast. I'm your host, Keenan Hudson, discovering the best you with Miss Amanda Thomas. Powerful story again. Like I said, y'all, we're here to enlighten, to give resources, hear other people's stories, different perspectives. I can only speak from a certain perspective, that may not reach every single person. But why not have other people that can reach and have some similarities that can help somebody? And I'm quite sure that y'all may know somebody that may want to check this video out, that wants to, learn something, educate, people with these things. Somebody may be able to benefit off of this. So without further ado, I'm going to have to get into this. Miss Amanda, we appreciate having you. You always living your truth. We appreciate that. And again, we speaking from experience. You've been through the prison system, you've been through the streets, you've been through, like you said, you can speak on the substance abuse and everything. But without further ado, Miss Amanda, thank you for coming to the show. But if you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and where you're from.
Thank you, Keenan. Yes, I am Amanda. And like he said, I have a lot of experience with dealing with substance use, going through the prison system and homelessness, um, just a survivor of many things. And, I think why my signature that I have taken on living my truth has really been um, what I have chosen to live by. And at one point in time, I really didn't have any type of life principles that I lived by, which landed me in a lot of places that I had no business being in. Excuse me. And it is a lot of times people will live with regrets from their past, and I've chosen to not do that and just forgive myself, so then I can discover the best version of myself. And the only way that I was able to do that was through going through all of the hardships that I did. For me, self discovery was so important when I was incarcerated, to find out what were the error of my ways and where did everything go so terribly wrong for me, because I wasn't raised in a household that should have landed me in the streets and with substance use issue and in prison. I had very good parents. They loved me. Nothing happened horribly to me as a child. And so when I would reflect back and ask myself, how did I land here? And for me, it was when I was in third grade, I had a reading disability and I was dyslexic, which at that time, my parents didn't know that. And so they just knew that I had a comprehension issue. So they decided to hold me back, and I repeated third grade. Well, when I repeated third grade, all my classmates went on to fourth grade, and I watched them go on. And from that moment, rather than seeing it from the lens of my parents and my teacher, that, oh, hey, let's not put her in a compromising position to be challenged. Let's go ahead and hold her back. And so their motives behind that was to help me. But in my child mind, I internalized that as that I was stupid and that I wasn't worthy of going to the fourth grade because I was dumb. And I took on that identity at that time. I didn't know that. And so my parents didn't know that. I was a child. How would I have even known to tell them, that I was struggling in that way? So from that time in my life, not trusting myself to ever have the right answers, that led into lying, cheating on other people's paper, off of other people's paper. And that just snowballed the deception and the manipulating and whatnot. So I carried that on throughout my life. And so I never really got to know who I was. I lived my life through other people's validation. And I never really knew what Amanda liked to do. I would do things that I thought everybody else wanted from me.
Mm,
And
wow.
so I just sought validation from all the wrong people. I
Mhm,
didn't hang out with the smart crowd because I felt inferior to them. So I would hang out with people that were doing things that, um, you
mhm,
know, weren't always uh,
mhm.
the best decisions in life because they weren't people that I really um, felt less than, if you will.
Gotcha. So let me ask you, so you was growing up and you discovered that, that you had like you had a discomfort within yourself saying that you weren't as smart as other people and things like that. Like recently, I just spoke at a literacy summit, and we were actually trying to figure out like what type of things could increase the literacy like within our young people, especially within Pennsylvania. And I noticed that a lot of times with the lack of like education in a lot of children's lives, it can cause you to go astray because
Yes,
you it causes you to be isolated. It causes you to drift away in some type of way because you think you don't fit in.
right.
Everybody else is going to college. They're doing this. They're getting good grades. They're making honor rolls and this, that, and the third. So it pushes you away. So let me ask you. So was that one of the main reasons that actually drove you to life with substance abuse and things of that nature?
Yeah, I think so because
Mhm,
when as I got older, now you're accountable for
mhm,
what are you going to do with your life. Um, and I didn't know those answers,
mhm,
and so I felt inadequate um, and not capable. I didn't feel capable of accomplishing anything, and so I did go through cosmetology school as soon as I got out of high school, and I did graduate high school barely, but I did. And I wanted to drop out, and thank God for my mother that she pushed me to not do so, because I mean I was really determined that I was going to quit school. Like, I didn't think that there was any reason for me to finish. What was I going to be capable of doing in life? And
mhm.
so she did push me to finish, and I'm very, very glad she did. So I went on to cosmetology school, and that gave me a sense of purpose and self-worth.
Mhm,
But again, I had no sense of direction from within because I didn't have a relationship with myself. I just sought
mhm.
validation through the eyes of other people.
Yeah.
Because I was around people that weren't really making great choices, I just
Mhm,
fell right in line with everything else that everybody else was doing.
mhm.
And
So
because
let
I
me
believe, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So at one point in your life, now you came to like a turning point where not necessarily a turning point, but you came to like a wit's end where you were probably down at your worst and you wind up, going to prison. Now, what was that time like, and at what stage in your life did that take place?
So I was around 38 when I so let me back up just for a second.
Hmm.
Um I became addicted to substances, to opiates, and
Hmm.
that's a long story, but I broke
Hmm.
my pinky finger, got addicted to pain pills. When the script ran out, I was addicted to pain pills. So I
Wow.
started buying them off the streets and had never been in trouble before. At this point in time of my life, I was silently using opiates, and I felt like the best way to describe it is that I was dying inside and nobody knew it but me. I was
Mhm.
going around and faking the funk, acting like everything was fine, and I wasn't fine at all. So I had my son at the time, he was 5, he was getting ready to start kindergarten, and I knew that there would just be no way for me to stay consistent taking him to school, just any of that. There would be no way for me to keep up. And so the pain had finally gotten great enough. And so
Mhm.
I checked myself into the psychiatric unit, and I detoxed there for 11 days. I went through outpatient treatment voluntarily, and I stayed sober for about 3.5 years. Well, when I relapsed, I I knew that I never wanted to detox off opiates again. And so when I relapsed, I said, well, I'm going to do a drug that I'll never have to detox like that. So I started using IV methamphetamines, something I swore I would never, ever do. I used to see people that would use in that manner as less than me. And then I found myself being one of them. And so, the disease of addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, who your parents are, what ethnicity you are, nothing. And so that journey did not last long. It took me about a year into my relapse, and I found myself in trouble with the law. I was facing first-degree robbery charge, first-degree felonious restraint, and armed criminal action. Some pretty heavy charges, and could have landed me in there for pretty much the rest of my life. And I had, thank God, a really good attorney, pro bono attorney, because I couldn't afford one. And God, shed his grace on me in so many ways, so many different times throughout this part of my life. And once I finally got sentenced, I went off to prison, and I thought I was invincible. And so I took a bunch of drugs inside of the state facility with me, thinking that I was, not done yet. And I was going to go in there and I was going to do my thing and make money and just, I don't know, I guess be the kingpin of the prison. I guess that's what I thought. But, that's the illusion that you're in. And so I got caught with them, and I ended up being in solitary confinement for 5.5 months. So it was in that moment that the fog began to lift, and because I went straight from the streets to solitary confinement, like within 48 hours.
Wow.
So my whole body was just in complete and utter shock.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was
Which is very dangerous because a lot of people here, and I'm going to take a lot of people in the city of Philadelphia, they're taking people right off the streets and thinking it's throwing them inside solitary confinement, even quarantine. It's throwing them in shock, and some people actually dying because of that. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And you're right. I mean, my hair fell out. I had a nervous breakdown. I had a couple of nervous breakdowns while I was down there, but I had a nervous breakdown in the first, I would say, 10 days I was down there. My cellie that I had when I first went in there, I was looking around this little bitty room, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like, when are they going to let me out of here? And she's like, you're in here for a long time. Because I didn't know what, what do they call those things when you get in trouble when you're in prison?
Infraction, right?
Yeah. So I didn't realize that my 10.5 was going to cost me the next 5.5 months. And so I thought maybe I'll be in there a couple of days.
Oh.
So she taught me, she would sing to me, and she would read the Bible to me, and she taught me how to do time in the hole. And so I learned how to be in there, and I made a decision that I was not going to allow this time to ruin me, and I was going to allow it to make me. And that was just a decision that I made. But because I made that decision, it was so empowering to me because I proved to myself just what I was capable of. something that I had never given myself permission to do my entire life. And
Wow.
so at that point, I felt extremely empowered, and
Mm,
I began doing things that really built me. I call it that I became whole in the whole
in
because
the
I
hole.
did.
So it was just a matter of you being in the hole for a certain amount of time to you just gaining in strength for a life transformation.
Absolutely.
Um, but now, is this easy for everyone, or is everyone different? How does that work? Because I know there's people probably listening right now, like, "Wow, if she did that, I can go in there and do the same thing." Is there anything we should know about that?
Well, everybody is different for sure. I think that it comes down to your personal decisions that you make and the permission that you give yourself to make those decisions. While I was down there, I listened to numerous people lose their minds, literally. It was scary. It was devastating. It's an experience that if you've not been there, you can't explain it. Um, and I'm grateful for anybody that can't relate to it. But if you are facing, if you are facing time and you just haven't gone yet, and you're listening to this podcast, one thing that I would strongly encourage you to do is to make a decision before you even leave that things happen. This is what I say to myself no matter what. And I continue to do this to this day.
Mhm.
Things happen for me, not to me. And
Mm,
so, even though this feels and seems like the most devastating thing that could possibly happen,
mhm,
it could actually be the most wonderful, beautiful experience of your life if you allow it to be.
mhm. Wow. So
You
you have a comment here by Miss Darlene Robertson. She said it's a mindset, I would assume. Do you think it is a
Absolutely.
mindset? Do you agree with that?
I do.
Mm,
I think it is a personal decision that you make and you tell yourself every single day that I am going to be okay. I'm going to
mm,
get up every day and I'm going to find things to do. Even in this tiny little space, I'm going to find things to do. Meaning, I got up every day, I brushed my teeth, and I put my clothes on like I was normal, like I was getting up and I was getting
mhm.
ready to go somewhere. And that just created structure for me. And then I would walk corner to corner, and I would walk corner to corner,
Wow.
and then I would read, and then I would take a nap, and then I would
Mm,
write, and then I would go walk corner to corner, and then so that just kept
mm,
going and kept going. And yeah, Darlene, affirmations for sure. You
mhm.
have to have things that you say to yourself on a
Yeah.
consistent, regular basis. Like tough times don't last, tough people do.
Mm,
You know, um, I I just made a decision that I was no longer going to walk in the shadow of everybody else, and I was going to walk in my own light.
mhm,
And it was the 45th day that I was down there that I will never forget. I had a part-time relationship with God at this time prior
mhm,
to going to prison, and I would pull him down off the shelf when I needed him, and then I
mm,
put him back over here when I wanted to go do whatever and not feel convicted. And when I got in there, I finally said, you know what? I think I'm going to start reading the Bible again.
mm,
So I started reading the Bible again, and on the 45th day, I was so angry. Like I was starting to really come to know just what a train wreck I had made of my life.
wow.
And I was crying out to God, and I was so angry. And I was like, why? Why would it have to take this? Why? Why me? And for the first time in a very long time that I had heard God speak to me, and He said, "My child, I am protecting you from you." And I
Mhm,
realized in that moment, not only was I going to be okay, but I was so loved. And I hadn't felt loved in a very, very long time, but all because of what I was doing to myself. But in that
mhm,
moment, when he spoke to me and told me that, I realized He loved me so much that he took me out of the streets and he
Mm.
saved me from myself, because I was on a path that I know if I wouldn't have went to prison, I would bet anything that I would not be
Mhm.
here today. I
Wow.
would bet
Wow.
my life on it that I would not be here today,
Mhm.
for sure.
So, 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 wow. So you went to prison after battling substance abuse. You had an encounter. You came to your consciousness. You developed a spirituality, whereas that's what got you over, but then also your self motivation as well. So eventually, it came a time when you did come out of the hole, correct?
Mhm,
So now
mhm.
this is where partial temptations can come again, because
Yes,
you're
for
not
sure.
totally free, but you're free with inside of prison now, where
Yes.
you have access to a lot of things. Where At what point did you know, okay, you're going to go home one day and you're going to have to do this type of work? So where did it start when you were in there?
So when I was released out of solitary confinement, this would be the first time that I experienced general population. And I would watch, I was street smart enough to know that I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to watch everybody and I'm going to see what everyone's doing. And then I'm going to know how I'm going to proceed forward, um, for my safety and just for, numerous reasons. Um, Being in the penitentiary, you just really don't know. So I watched all of these women and what their focus was. Um, and a lot of people were, um, they weren't going where I wanted to go, which was
Mm.
never ever going backwards. I wanted to make sure that everything that I had gone through up until this point in my life will have never have been in vain.
Mhm.
I was finally aware of the wreckage that I had caused for my son. He was 9.5 when I relapsed. Um, and so I turned his world completely upside down. And that was my main motivation, to really figure out what is it that I want from this. What do I want to do with my life? Because I had been successful before,
Mm.
and I knew what it was like to run a business successfully and be in a position to do good things for other people. Um, and that is what I did for years leading up to my addiction to opiates. Um, and that's another long story. But um, while I was while I was soul searching and watching people still getting high, their focus was on having girlfriends and getting in fights and going to the hole, and just focused on all the wrong things. No meaning, no substance, not living with purpose, not speaking with any type of substance behind it. It was just a bunch of loose lips and sinking ships and doing, saying, thinking, feeling
Mm.
emptiness. It to me, I would watch them and it just looked so empty. And that is not what I wanted anymore. I wanted to live with substance in my life.
Mhm.
And that wasn't going to come from anybody in there other than from myself. And that's just what I did.
Wow. So then you wound up serving a total of how many years? And how long
3.
have you been now? 3 years. And
Yeah.
how long have you been out now?
So April 1st, I will have been out for 6 years.
Wow, congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a great thing, great
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Even like, even being out a month, 2 months, a year, that stuff really feels good. You know what I mean? I was just sharing with my brother Bayak Thomas, shout out to him on air. He just said we free ourselves by working to right our wrongs, living and working to live and love life to the fullest. Absolutely. I was
Yeah.
just telling him, the end of this year, I've been home 9 years now. I came home back in 2016,
Wow.
and I came home to a world, that I did not know. I was down since I was 15 years old, barely 15 years old, came home and I had to understand and learn life. Like, so it was something new, and it's like, wow. And then looking fast forward and now, everything I did wasn't done in vain. Even though I made some
Right.
mistakes, there was some, ups and downs. But here it is, I established myself. I purchased properties. I've done so many different things
Yeah,
that really, like, what I'm saying, catapult. But back to you.
absolutely.
I'm so sorry. I
No.
mean, it's definitely not about me. Definitely about you. Um, so at what point, um, so you came home and you started doing the work. At any point, did you ever think that there was going to be a chance of you relapsing or hanging around the wrong people again, feeling bad about yourself, giving it one more chance? How was that experience? Excuse me.
So, um, congratulations being home 9 years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That is amazing. Your story is amazing.
Hmm.
But before I left there, I had to go through an 84-day treatment. Um, and I had prayed, God, please do not let me have to go through this. Just leave me on the yard. I like the luxuries that I've got. I got my TV, I got my clothes, I got my commissary. Just leave me alone.
Hmm.
I'll be good. I already, I've been through recovery. I've done the NA thing. I've done the steps. I know what I'm doing. I'm good.
Hmm.
Um, and then I decided, okay, if you want me to go, my name's going to get called. And sure enough, my name got called.
Wow.
So I was thinking, well, it's probably because somebody needs to hear something I have to say,
Hmm.
and justifying it like that. But when I got over there to the treatment part of prison, I realized there was so much work left to do in me that I had no idea how much I had not yet dealt with, and the realities of what if my son doesn't want to call me mom anymore? What if he doesn't want to come and live with me again? Because for the longest time, I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to get my son, and we're going to go back to life as normal. Well, I've been gone out of his life. He's now a 15-year-old young boy,
Hmm.
and it wasn't about me. And I realized through a lot of counseling that um, it was no longer about me um, in that regard. It was about what does he need, and whatever he needs is what I'm going to be willing to do.
Hmm.
I also had to come to a place within myself to say, okay, play the tape all the way through. What if he doesn't call me mom? I was a PTA mom. I took him to school every day. I picked him up. I packed his lunch. I laid his clothes out. Like, we were like this. And
Wow.
so there was never a thought in my mind of that until I went to treatment at the end. And I realized that this could be um, a facade, that in my mind, this could actually not work out the way that I am thinking it's going to. So
Hmm.
you better get prepared for the unknown, because if not, then I'm going to put myself in a position of jeopardizing my freedom again, because I'm going to be on parole for
Hmm.
many years, and um, and also possibly relapsing due to the devastation of the fact that my son may never want to call me mom again, or he may never want to come live with me again. And so
Hmm.
through treatment, I was able to get to a place that even if that happens, I am still worthy of having a good, happy, healthy life.
Hmm.
And I am still capable of staying
Hmm.
sober, even through what I would feel could have been the worst thing that could have ever happened. And that would have been one of the worst things that could have ever happened for me, is my son not wanting to call me mom anymore, and not wanting to be a part of my life, and allowing me to be a part of his life.
Hmm.
And so I felt really strong. I felt really, really strong leaving there. Um, and
Mhm.
using was just not an option for me.
Mhm.
They say never, and that's fine, and I understand why. But I'm 50 years old, and at that,
Wow, you're like you 32. Oh my God. Yeah. But
thank you. But I'm
Mhm.
50 years old, and so I realize that we're not playing games here. Like I got a life to live. I missed out on, almost a decade because of all
Mhm.
this craziness. And I've got a story to tell. And if one person is spared by hearing something that I have to say, then it was worth it. It truly was worth it.
Right.
If
That's
my
true.
son doesn't go down the path of gang banging and being in the streets, and using dope, selling dope because of what he has gone through with his
Mhm.
mother, I would do it again 100 times over.
Yeah,
Um, and thank God, he doesn't have any type of desire for that life,
that's
and
right.
because he's seen what it will do, you know.
Mhm. So
Um,
tell me, so and that's amazing. Like you said, to still keep that relationship and be wanting to be a part of your son. Like, wow. And let me tell you, so you came home, you did all these things, and we know that you're making a positive impact right now. So how could people, or what type of advice or resources can you give people right now? And what type of work are you doing for these type of people that were in similar situations?
so uh, as I was going through treatment, I was teaching classes in in treatment, and I realized that I'm good at this. I'm a good teacher, and I
Hmm.
love it. It fills my cup up, and so I had decided I had a homework assignment one time, um, and it was to make a collage of who do you see yourself as? The woman that you are
Hmm.
today, who do you see yourself as? And so I
Hmm.
made this collage. Um, and as I'm making it, I realized in that moment that I wanted to be a substance abuse counselor. And I didn't know what I was going to, I didn't know what that looked like, how to even make that happen. But as long as I stayed determined, I could figure it out because I now knew
Hmm.
there's nothing dumb about me at all. I'm
Yeah.
actually very smart, and um, and so it was like I'm unstoppable at this point. I'm not that little girl in third grade that thought that she was less than and could never amount to XYZ. I now knew that I was actually really smart and I was capable of accomplishing anything that I had set my mind to. So when I got out, I became a peer support specialist first. And then the hours that I worked as a clinician went towards my license in substance abuse counseling. So I now am a counselor in a harm reduction clinic, and that is how I help people. I guide them into becoming the best version of themselves. No matter how that looks.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
if you could right now, if you could encourage some individuals right now, that's probably watching from a, halfway house, recovery house, a center that really needs some encouragement or some motivational words, what would you say to them right now?
So I would say to surround yourself around people that know more than you, are doing more than you are with your life right now, and that are willing to help you. You cannot hang around people that are not trying to go in the direction that you're going. Um, there, there are so many different resources, and the people that are really going to bring you and pull you up, they're going to be more than happy to help you accomplish any of your hopes and dreams and aspirations. But it starts with you finding out what those are. You've got to ask yourself some tough questions and start journaling. You can find out so much about yourself when you journal. You can reflect back a week from now, a month or two from now, and you can realize that you've actually grown quite a bit. You can see how your mindset shifts. And you just want to hang around people that lift you up, including yourself. You got to speak positivity to yourself. Even if you don't feel it, you still say it anyway. You cannot limit yourself. Limiting beliefs are crippling. You've got to be able to give yourself permission to find an identity that resonates with you, and then go for it. Just go for it.
That's it. We really appreciate everything you shared, Miss Amanda. And I know that this is definitely not the last time you'll be on here. We're going to be doing a lot more, some special shows as well. And I know you're going to share a lot more of different things, especially with substance abuse, because we know that you're a counselor and you're an expert in that field from the professional side, but also the experience. It's very hard to find individuals that have the experience and the professionalism behind it. You know what I mean? So that's a plus for you. But we definitely commend you and congratulate you on being home for almost 6 years. You said 6 years. That's a great thing. But without further ado, Mr. Man, we definitely got to come, to a conclusion, with this show. But it's all good. It's the Reentry Connect podcast. I'm your host, Keenan Hudson, discovering the best you with Miss Amanda Thomas. Amanda Thomas, it was definitely great having you. Shout out to Miss Darlene. She said that was good. Congratulations. Miss Darlene is definitely a big support in the community in Philadelphia. She's everywhere. Every event, she's at every event. She with the mayor. She with the president. Like, wait. Miss Darlene is just everywhere.
Go, Darlene.
Yeah, Miss Darlene, very good person. Get her on here so she can talk on here too. But nonetheless, though, Mr. Man, we appreciate having you. But until next time, we just thank you. And then